Hi everyone, and welcome to the Dapt mini-series. I'm really excited to be launching this. We're actually going to be running quite a few of these over the course of the rest of the year, all the way leading up into November. The first one today, we're going to be looking at top tips for Microsoft Lists. It's going to be hosted by myself and Daniel Fowl. We'll start off with just a couple of quick introductions. So over to you, Dan, for your introduction.
Yeah, cheers, Steve. So my name's Daniel Fowl, one of the directors here at Dapt. I had a background in SharePoint and Office 365 since version 2007. I'm a Microsoft MCSE and MCSA, and I have a real passion for kind of SharePoint, Microsoft Lists, and helping companies to get the most out of their investment in Microsoft 365.
Cheers, Dan. And myself, Stephen Port, again, one of the co-founders and directors at Dapt. I'm a Microsoft Teams and Information Protection certified associate, and also worked as a principal consultant for sort of various Microsoft Gold partners. I'm really excited to kick off this mini-series today.
Cheers, Steve. So I'll take everyone through the agenda. So today's session is all about Microsoft Lists. So I guess before we dive into the rest of the agenda, we should really just cover off an overview of what lists are. So Microsoft Lists are been around probably 6 months or so, but really in reality they've been around since SharePoint was first released. It's really an extension of the old SharePoint list that you've all been familiar with in the past. And where we position lists is we kind of really think of lists as a tool for helping people store data in a place where multiple people can collaborate on it at once. So it's a great way of getting rid of some of those older Excel spreadsheets that you might have knocking around in your business, and really kind of moving away from that process of kind of filling in data in an Excel spreadsheet and then emailing it to multiple people. The great thing about Microsoft Lists is that it comes with a mobile app, so you can access these lists on your mobile device. It's integrated with other tools across the platform, so you can embed your lists in Teams, you can embed your lists in a SharePoint site. And because we've got the kind of the whole of Microsoft 365 to play with, we can really extend your Microsoft Lists so that we can do things like approvals, we can build processes, we can even build kind of business applications with your Microsoft Lists as the back end. So we think lists are a really cool tool, which is why we wanted to book in this session and give you a demo of what's possible. So we're going to be covering off a few things in this session. I've pulled out the kind of key bits on this slide, but we will be dipping into kind of a few other areas as well as we have time. First up, we're going to look at templates. So one of the great things that came with Microsoft Lists that we didn't get back in the old SharePoint days is the ability to use some predefined templates. So these give you the ability to kind of kickstart your list and really kind of start with some really cool templates that Microsoft have put together for us. So we'll be showing you some of those and what the capabilities are, and talking through how you can kind of extend those options that you get from Microsoft out of the box. We'll then look at some formatting. So this is a kind of list and view and column formatting. So this is a way of kind of highlighting key information in your list. So maybe if a task is overdue, or a RAG status is being turned to red, we can really kind of highlight that information and make it pop on the screen so that people know what's going on. And then we're going to follow that up with rules, which is a great way of kind of and this is also new with Microsoft Lists. It's a way of kind of setting up kind of more advanced alerts on your list, so you can trigger emails to certain individuals based on changes to the content in your list. So we'll take you through the various different options there, and then we'll also talk about how you can build views to customize your data, and how we can look at kind of extending your list to take them to that next level. Following on from that, we'll close up, and we're going to go through the schedule of our other 20 different mini series that we're going to cover off in this series. So stay tuned to the end, and we'll take you through some of that stuff. So I think I've spent enough time on the slides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the demo. We've got quite a short session today, so if you do have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll follow up with you after the session. We might pick up a couple of questions at the end if we have some time. We'll see how we're getting on. So I'm going to jump over to my demo environment. So Microsoft Lists is a separate app that's now available in the Microsoft menu up here. So if you click on the waffle at the top, lists, you should see with this kind of bright coloured icon at the top. That will then take you through to this this landing page that you see here. So this is quite neat. So I can see here all of my existing lists that I have. And this is obviously the same experience that you get on the mobile device. I can pin my favorite list up to the top here, and this is also where I come to create new lists. So I'm going to show you some of the options that are available with the templates. So if I click at the top here, you can see I've got this option to create a new list. There's a few options here that may be of interest. So we're going to cover off the templates, but if you wanted to, you can just start with a completely blank canvas. So this will just start with a single column, and it will allow you to kind of build out your list to meet your exact requirements. The next one that I think is quite a useful tool is the ability to actually use one of your existing Excel spreadsheets as a template. There are a few quirks around this. It doesn't always work perfectly. It requires you to have predefined tables in your Excel spreadsheets, but you can use this to kind of accelerate that kind of list creation. If you've already got some lists that are being emailed around your company, maybe try this as a kind of starting point to kind of pull those into Microsoft 365. Okay, you can also start from an existing list. So actually, while Microsoft gives you some predefined templates here, what you can do within your organization is actually set up some lists that you can use as templates for other people. So rather than kind of reinventing the wheel each time you create your list, why not create some templates for maybe you want to list each one of your project sites, you want a list to manage a particular activity. You can build a list from blank, and then at a later date you can come in here and you can select an existing list to build out your process. So I'm going to show you some of the lists that are available from Microsoft. One that I think is quite good here is the recruitment tracker. So if I click on any of these lists, you see it actually gives me a preview of what I'm going to get, and it's giving me some test data, so I can see the kind of predefined column formatting that Microsoft have put in there for me. So this recruitment tracker is quite nice in that it kind of helps you to manage that whole recruitment process. So if you're working in HR, you've probably tried to manage this before, and it involves kind of file shares, lots of emails, Excel spreadsheets. It can be a bit difficult to track these processes if you're onboarding a lot of people. So this gives you some predefined columns that allows you to kind of track the progress, identify who the recruitment person is, some scheduling around this. We can even do things like kind of add notes for any meetings or phone interviews that have taken place. So using these templates, I can get a preview of what's possible, and I can click on use template, and you can see here that I'm going to be displayed with a few options. So by default, it's picked up the name from the template, but I can change this if I wanted. I can give a brief description about my list if I want to make it clear exactly what it's for. I can do some nice things around kind of choosing different colors and icons. And then there's an important bit here at the bottom. So you can see by default, it's gone save to my lists. What this actually does is it will save it to a kind of hidden section of my OneDrive. So your OneDrive site will not, you won't be able to see these from your OneDrive site, but if you come back to this list here, I'll show you in a minute, you'll see that a few of these have site names, but some of them say my lists, and they're personal lists to me. So if you want to create a list that you want to share with someone else, what you need to do is come in here and choose an existing SharePoint site that you have in place, and you can choose to add a list to that existing site. So I'm gonna save this one as a personal list because I just want to see what it looks like. I hit create, and it's going to go away and provision this list for me. And you can see up here, this is my OneDrive account locally. So I could share this with other people. If I click share, I can invite other people into this. But for the time being, this is just private to me. So this is, you can see it comes with no data. So what I'm actually going to do is I'll flip back to a list we've built before. So this is actually, again, one of the templates available from Microsoft, but I've put some test data in here already. So this is a content scheduler list, and I guess the scenario here is that I work in a internal comms team. We have to manage lots of social media posts and also internal posts for our intranet platform. And we don't really have a decent way of organizing that. So we thought we'd put together a list. And within this, we can track upcoming stories and blog posts and social media posts. We can put in a description, and we can do things like assign these to various different people within the organization. And what this list does is it allows us to kind of manage this process throughout its life cycle. And what I'm going to show you next is how we can use the list and column formatting, the view and column formatting, to really kind of highlight key information on this list. So you can see here, by default, this content type list has got some column formatting already defined in it. I'm going to show you how we apply this to another column. So I'm going to do this on the status column. So if you see next to these columns, there's a drop down. This is great because I can use this to do things like filter the list based on the entries in that list. I can do things like count if it's more of a kind of financial spreadsheet or a list. I can count columns, which might be useful. But what I want to do here is I want to go into column settings, and you can see here I've got an option to format this column. So if I come in here, you can see there's various different options. At the moment, we're going to focus on formatting the columns, but I can also do view formatting as well. So there's a couple of different kind of options we've got here. So I'll take you through each one, but first of all, we've got the kind of background colors. So this is quite simple. I just choose background colors, and you can see there's an option here to edit the styles. So within this, I can then actually come into the formatting of this column, and I can choose colors based on the value of the column. So Microsoft will give you some predefined colors. They don't always make sense. So sometimes you'll need to come in here and just tweak them. So if it's draft needs approval, yeah, that sounds good. Let's say if it's planned, we want to change the color, we can come in here and change that. And you can see if I save this and go back to the list, we've now got those background colors assigned, which I think is really useful, especially for those kind of rag status columns, that kind of thing. We've got a couple of other options. We've got the choice pills that you can see over here on the left hand side, but we can also do things like conditional formatting. So rather than just highlight everyone, we can maybe highlight based on a particular value in a column. So maybe I want to say if status is equal to draft needs approval, I really want to highlight this so that people can see that there's something in there that needs some action. I can highlight this as red. So it's not just, so you can see there, that really shows to me that, okay, these three items need some actions. So you can actually extend this in quite an easy way using those options. Also, with the dates, Microsoft does some really helpful stuff here in terms of helping you see things that are overdue or need attention soon. So a good example here is if I look at the draft due by date, I can use this to say, okay, let's have a look, let's format this column. You can see the options here are slightly different. It's because Microsoft recognizes that this is a date column. So it's going to give me some different options, and it actually does a pretty good job of assigning colors that make sense. So I can see here that upcoming drafts are in yellow, anything due today is green, and draft due after today is red. We're too late. So I might want to swap these around. Actually, I think it would make more sense if that was that way around. So I'm going to hit save, and you can see if we go back to this list, we've got some more information there. Another option we have is you can actually take this even further and apply some custom styling to your columns. So if I go to this modified by column, this has got user profile information in here. So maybe I want to add something that would allow people to click on a button, for example, and kick off an email to someone. So I can come in here, and if I format this column, I can actually come down here and there's an advanced mode. And if I come in here, and you don't have to be a dev to be able to do this. Microsoft actually have some good examples that you can reference online, which is what I've used here. So if I grab my code, 1 second. So I'm going to add this example in, and what this is going to do, it's actually going to add an email icon to that column. And it also allows me to define the subject line of the email and the body of the email. So you can extend this so that people could, you can build out quite nice solutions using those kind of custom rules and custom formatting. Next up, I wanted to show you view formatting. And I think this is, so at the moment we're just focused on individual columns. But maybe I want to highlight a whole row if something important needs identifying. So for this particular example, I'm going to show you, I really want to highlight content that has passed the publish by date. So we really should have published this content, but it hasn't been done yet. So effectively for this, I'm going to need to evaluate the date in the publish by column, and also the status of this particular row as well. So I'm going to come in here, and there's a couple of ways I can get to this. I can come in here and I can say form the drop down at the top. This allows me to switch views, but it also allows me to format the current view. So I'm going to choose the option to format the current view, and I'm going to do some conditional formatting on this. So the rule, I want to put together a rule here that's slightly more complex than the ones we've done so far. So I'm going to look at the publish by date, and I'm going to say if the publish by date is before today, i.e. we should have done it already, and the status column is not equal to published, I really want to flag this and let people know that this should have been done by now. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose, let's choose red again. Maybe we'll choose a slightly softer red, and I can hit save on this. And if I go back to the list, I can see, okay, there's an item in here that should have been published. It hasn't been done, so let's go and action that. So I think these list view rules are really neat, definitely worth a look. But next up, I'm going to show you how we can actually use rules to trigger emails based on activity in the list. So you can see up at the top of this list, we've got the option to automate up here, and this is a new feature that came with Microsoft Lists. It wasn't available in SharePoint lists beforehand. And you can see here we've got an option to create a rule. And you can think of these rules, I don't know whether if you ever used the alerts within SharePoint lists, they were very basic. You couldn't really do much with them. You could just, if a new item was created, you could send an email to someone. With this, we can create a rule based on 4 different types of criteria. Some of them are quite simple, but others actually allow you to extend it and take things a fair bit further. So first up, we've got when a column changes. So if I click in this one, this is fairly simple, but maybe let's say when status changes, let's email the internal comms team. So this would just send them a simple email to say the status of this column has changed, and send them a link to that particular form. So that's fairly basic. What I think is probably the most powerful one of these options is the ability to do it based on a specific value in a column. So in this one, for example, I can maybe send an email based on a particular activity in my list. So if I'm in the internal comms team, I can look at the status column, and I want to say if this status is now changed to draft needs approval, send an email to Daniel Fowl in the comms team. I can add additional emails here. I can create this rule, and this will now send an email out whenever that status column is ready for approval. So it's quite almost like a process automation, but without having to go deep into Power Automate. This is something any of your users can pick up and create rules around. One thing you need to be aware of here is that you can only have 15 rules per list. So that's an important thing to be aware of there. The final two items are, again, I would say, at the sort of more basic end of Microsoft Lists. So if I create a new item, I can send an email to someone. So this might be useful if it's something where there's maybe you're tracking important information. So we recently did some work for a customer where we were putting together gift and hospitality register. So they wanted to record something every time someone had been offered a gift. That's maybe where you'd want to automate that to send an email to someone in the governance team or the HR team to look at that as soon as possible. So that's a fairly good one. The item deleted works in very much the same way. If an item is deleted, you can send an email notification to someone. So you can start building up kind of much more complex applications and processes with this kind of approach. So those rules and this kind of list formatting is great. But as your list gets bigger, you may find that there's quite a lot of information on the page at one time. So as a user, I can come into any one of these columns and I can actually filter this list. So if I wanted to see just submitted items, for example, I can see that. But what you might want to do is actually be able to build views to only show those filtered views. So if I go back to my list, there's a couple of ways you can do this. One way is to click on the drop down up here where it links to all the different views available to you, and I can choose the option to create a new view. So maybe let's create one for submitted. I think this is personally the slightly longer way of doing it. So I can create submitted here. I've got an option to choose whether it's public or private. By default, it's public. If I untick that, it's a personal view. So maybe if I come into a list and I'm always doing the same filter every time, but it's probably only me that's going to do that, I would just save it as a private view. But I'm going to make this a public view because I think it's useful to everyone. So I can go in here and create my submitted view. Now, the odd thing about doing it this way is that it actually is just giving me the default view. I actually then need to come into this drop down and filter by submitted, hit apply, and then you can see up here, it's got a little star next. So I need to come in here and actually click the option to save view as, and then I just save it as submitted, and now you can see I've got a different view showing just submitted items. And what I can actually do is I can take this view and I can embed it in different places on my SharePoint site, which is quite useful. I think personally the best way to create views is to go into your list, do the filter by. So I'm going to filter by ready to publish, and then you can see up here things I'll just quickly show you. You can rearrange columns in your view just by dragging and dropping. This was something that you couldn't do in the old days of SharePoint, which I think is a really nice way to do things. One other thing I wanted to show you, if you wanted to go beyond rules within your list, so you wanted to kind of automate this and take this further, you do have the option to integrate with Power Automate. So with Power Automate, we can create some much more complex business processes behind our list. So if I come in here, I can show you the option to you get a load of predefined templates that you can use. So you can request approval. So you could use this to say, okay, if a column value changes, request approval from someone. A good business case we've done elsewhere is around maybe an expenses list. So you can have everyone can submit their expenses into the list, and based on the value of the expense, we can send the approval to different people. So maybe if it's under £100, It's just auto approved. If it's between 100 and 500, it goes to your line manager. If it's over 500, it goes to the head of finance. We can build out those kind of more complex business rules using things like Power Automate. But there's lots of other options to extend this as well. You can actually use your list as a data source and use forms or Power Apps as the front end to actually get that information into your list. So there's lots of different options, but yeah, we're covering a lot of these in our other sessions. So check out the form session or the Power App session if you'd like to see that in a bit more detail. So following on from the demo, I just wanted to kind of leave you with a few top tips to get you started. I would say definitely start with the Microsoft list templates. The list templates are a good way to kind of give you a quick start for your lists. The good thing about the list templates as well is that they give you the ability to kind of reverse engineer what Microsoft has done. So you can look at those column formatting and list formatting rules, and you can really get an idea of how they're put together. I would say another good thing that I haven't mentioned so far is the ability to create comments. So this is, again, a new feature that wasn't available in SharePoint lists. If I go back to my list, you can see I've got this little speech bubble next to this item. If I click on that, you can actually see we've had a conversation around this list item. So, you know, again, getting away from that kind of Excel spreadsheet, comments and emails, we can just update the items here, and I can have conversations with my colleagues within the comment section here. So I think this is a really nice addition to Microsoft Lists. Another thing you can do is you can actually, there's an app for your Microsoft Teams. So I can embed my lists directly within one of my Microsoft Teams. So within my internal comms team, I've added my content scheduler list as a tab at the top. So I think this is you know, a really nice way of kind of bringing all these tools within Microsoft 365 together. And I've already mentioned that, you know, if you want to take your list, turbocharge your list and take it to the next level, take a look at automating your processes with that Power Platform, and then, you know, the options are pretty much endless there. So with that, I'll pass back to Steve just to cover off the next sessions we've got coming up. Thanks for your time. Hope you enjoyed the demo.
Cheers, Dan. That was brilliant. I think some really useful insights on Microsoft List there, and I can see the value quite a lot. As Dan's mentioned, as part of our sort of mini series, we're covering off quite a few of the apps in Microsoft 365. Next up on the 8th of July will be OneDrive for Business. So we'll be going into all things OneDrive for Business, how to use it, how to get the most out of it, how to organize your content, all of that sort of great stuff. Again, it's going to be at the same time, 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. So just before your lunch as well, which hopefully you guys can all make. We've actually posted the actual whole schedule up now, so this is all available. You can go to our the Dapt UK LinkedIn profile, so the company profile, and you'll be able to download this as a PDF. So again, have a look at it. There'll probably be some apps in there that you're quite comfortable with, but again, there'll be some insights from ourselves that you may or may not have known about. So really worthwhile checking this out and sharing with your teams and colleagues just to make sure you can attend all of those. Lastly, if you do want to get in touch, you can visit our website or you can drop us an email. We also on sort of the various social media channels, so you know, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We will be recording this session as well, so it will be going up onto our YouTube channel. And if you'd like to get your phones out now, you're welcome to scan that QR code in the bottom and just give some feedback on the session today. Again, we want to continually improve all of our webinars, make sure we're delivering the right content. So please scan that and go from there. So thank you very much for attending. I think we're pretty much bang on time there. So thanks very much, and we'll see you on the next mini series.
Thanks, everyone.